more. I would like to look at the issues from the point of governance. The last speaker has said a lot about governance, the lack of it, but I would like to speak for government, quote and unquote, to say that the Nigerian government has done a lot, especially in the last 7, 8 years, in terms of providing the building blocks for this industry to thrive, from the Federal Mortgage Bank, Federal Housing Authority, Family Home Funds, NMRC, Infra Credit. You know, these are all agencies that government has set up with a clear vision in mind. Unfortunately, there's no synergy between these organizations. Everybody is doing his own thing. In fact, in some places, they're replicating. In some cases, they're even competing against each other, to the extent that some organizations that were set up by one body are actually not speaking to each other. You have the same client, and you're asking the client to go and get a guarantee from a commercial bank. Meanwhile, your sister organization is set up to provide guarantees, you know, for the exact same thing that you want. So what I would like to see is greater synergy. And for that to happen, governance now must come in the sense that we must have a clear national housing policy. We must have consistency in terms of policy implementation, where probably we'll have a minister that can stay there for 8 years, you know, and get to implement and see through this vision, you know, because changes every time you have a minister for 2 years at most, another person comes in, and, you know, with all due respect to politicians, they are only looking at the next election and maybe in some cases, worst case scenario, what they can get for their pockets. So we need to have technocrats in this kind of ministries because, I mean, there's no country in the world that does not count its GDP in terms of the real estate contribution, you know, to the economy. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, that contribution is very, very low and even negligible. And we can do better, we can do more, and I believe that the building blocks are there. The private sector developers or participants are there, they are raring to go. We spoke about cooperatives here in the afternoon, how you have cooperatives with thousands of members, 10,000 members, 14,000 members. Even in the organized sector, you have a cooperative, maybe for example in the CBN, where they have 14,000 members. You know, you go to the customs, the same thing. You go to the civil service, all these guys are there and they are not even being catered for. By the time you cross over to the non-formal sector, they are very organized, in some cases even more organized than the formal sector. They make their contributions, and these guys even have more money than the salaried employees. All they need is that for somebody to sit down at the top and say, okay, this is how we're going to do this thing, and these are the rules that these various building blocks or players are going to play, and you would see that we begin to see results. So we need synergy, we need action, and by the grace of God, when we come next year, we don't hope to come and be talking about rhetoric and action, because to be very honest, over this last 17 years, it has been the same thing, the same faces, the same messages. You know, we need to actually see how we can tap into this renewed hope of this administration, whatever they are going to spend on palliatives in terms of savings from the subsidy removal, how much of it can come into housing directly. But no matter the amount of money you throw into housing, so far we don't have this synergy and we don't have this unified vision and sincerity of purpose, we cannot achieve the goal of housing for Nigeria.